Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. Hope you're doing well. So, another huge day for silver today. We crossed a huge milestone. We're going to talk about that. We're going to look at the chart. We need to talk about what's on your screen too. This is from the White House today. President Trump signed a proclamation ordering the U.S. Secretary of Commerce and U.S. Trade Representatives to jointly negotiate agreements with trading partners to address the threatened impairment of national security with respect to imports of processed critical minerals and their derivative products from any country. Now, you might recall that the U.S. has just added silver to its list of critical minerals. So we're going to delve into the impacts that this proclamation may have for silver, and especially silver here in the U.S. It's significant for those of you who are stacking. So stick with me on this. We're going to cover a lot in today's video. Before we delve into the impacts of that, though, let's just take a look at what silver's doing today, because we had a big day in the West as well. It wasn't just in Shanghai. We need to talk about what just happened in Shanghai, because silver crossed $100. I'm not going to keep you waiting in suspense, but in Shanghai, silver traded well above $100, and that is going to be very significant as well. That's a critical milestone in silver. But here in the U.S., we touched $93.50. Now, we've had a bit of a correction in the overnight trading. We'll get into that too. I'm going to break down this chart for you, tell you what I think is next for silver. And if you want to do some stacking here as the silver market is really heating up, then check this out. SD Bullion, trusted by hundreds of thousands of customers, A+ rated by the BBB, home of the Scottsdale Mint Eagle Stacker Silver Round, precision crafted, interlocking in multiple sizes. Visit sdbullion.com, where America buys physical gold and silver. All right, so you can check out those new interlocking rounds over at SD Bullion. Let's just talk about Shanghai briefly, because it's really more of an update than a specific news story, but it's a critical development, and from a technical standpoint, from a psychological standpoint. So this is the chart of the Shanghai price of silver, and you can see here that earlier in the session it topped out at 23,574 Chinese yuan per kilo of silver. And if you do the math, that actually comes out to about $105 per troy ounce. So this is real contracts for silver, trading hands. It's in Shanghai, so that means there might actually be some physical metal exchanging hands too, unlike on the COMEX where it's nearly all paper. But this means that real physical silver was trading for over $100. It's slightly off the highs. I think we're still over 100 though. I think at the current price of around 22,653, if I did the math right, that's slightly over 100. It's like $102, $103. So still, at this very moment, the silver price in Shanghai is over $100. Now, let's look at the chart here of our price here in the West. I'm going to switch this to a 4-hour to just give us a little more resolution. And as you can see, we had a bit of a sharp drop there in the overnight trading. I think at the lows, silver was down like 5 and change percent. So it's already recovered off of the lows there. But let's just examine what's going on here. The first thing I want to say is, silver's a volatile market. It's always going to have these corrections, especially after a huge run up like we had today, up to $93. So, to me, when silver is correcting, it's in the red, and it's at $89. So silver is correcting to $89, not from $89, but to $89. I'm not really losing any sleep over that. In fact, when it comes to my physical holdings, I'm not losing any sleep over any of it, because I think the trend is going to remain much, much higher. Even if we do get some sharp pullbacks, I'll view those as buying opportunities. Anybody who managed to snag the bottom of this dip, if you bought some junk silver, that's available at spot. Not financial advice or anything, but that was probably a pretty solid steal of some physical metal. But I'm going to draw a Fibonacci retracement here to give you an idea of what we might expect in this pullback behavior. Is this going to last? Are we going to wake up tomorrow and see the silver price has crashed? Are we going to see it surging? Let's just see what we can figure out probability-wise. We're going to draw this from about this level right here. This is the lowest This is like the base formation right here. So you got the silver price touching this level about 4 times. So we're going to draw it from there. We're going to draw it from the bottom of this spike, our Fibonacci retracement. We could draw it from here, but that's really like an intermittent higher low. It's not really the base that was formed. So that's why we're drawing the Fibonacci retracement from here all the way up to the peak today around 93 and change. And that gives you an idea of how far back this pullback might go, this correction, before we resume the move higher. Now, you'll notice I've got this symmetrical green triangle, kind of an ascending triangle, actually, a mix between symmetrical and ascending, so slightly bullish slant to that. But that's where we broke out of here on Sunday night. That's when we broke out from this consolidation, if you can see this here. And as we draw our Fibonacci retracements here, if you're not familiar with that, that's just a way of kind of assessing what the probabilities of how deep a pullback, especially a pullback in a bull market like what we're in right now. Because let me just say that right now, this pullback that we're seeing does nothing to invalidate silver's trend. Quite the contrary, actually. It's just normal consolidation, profit taking after you see this scorching run higher. It's normal to have some, profit taking. Maybe there's some manipulation. I don't know. Someone might have dumped a bunch of contracts trying to stifle the silver price, but at this point, I think that's just a desperation move, and there's no stopping this thing. And you'll kind of see why when we talk about the proclamation from Trump regarding critical minerals. But anyway, so you want to look at the levels here. You get the 0.236. That's what we've touched here, and it actually bounced after dropping below that on this 4-hour chart. So that's a pretty good sign. This might just be a really shallow pullback, the fact that it was rejected so quickly below that retracement level. But I would say there is a fairly strong possibility we might come down to this level, the 0.5 retracement, the $81.89. So call it $82, because this level here, it would coincide with the breakout level, right? So I'm going to draw that vertical line there, and it's in green, so it's a little hard to see here. Let me make that yellow. Yeah, so that yellow line, I mean, if we were going to see a steeper pullback, I would expect to see a significant amount of support right there at that yellow line, right around $82, because that would be the 50% retracement, which is a pretty strong support level, and then, coinciding with that breakout level. The 0.618, that's what people kind of think of as like the gold standard for a retracement. So if we did fall back into this triangle and then rebounded, again, that would be hugely bullish, because it would be showing that this level, which was once resistance, even on a sharp pullback, is now serving as support. But support doesn't mean that you bounce right off the line. Support means that once you enter that zone, you start to see strong buying, right? And I think that if you drop down to $81 right now, you would see a huge amount of buying. Who out there, put it in the chat, if we get a pullback to, let's say $82 or $79 silver, are you going to be buying some? I'm going to be buying some if it drops personally. Not financial advice. I'm not telling anybody what to do. But I know there's going to be a lot of buying unleashed if we do get that pullback. In fact, I think there's a ton of money sitting on the sidelines. And that's exactly why any pullback like that will be short-lived, because people are trying to get back in. Or they feel like they missed the boat and they want to get in for the first time. So, there's a lot of interest in silver right now, especially with it breaking $100 on Shanghai Gold Exchange. I think we're going to be breaking $100 here in the West probably this month. I mean, there's a strong possibility that January could be the month that we see a triple-digit silver spot price here in the West. Now, let's take a look at this proclamation here that Donald Trump signed. And again, silver is a critical mineral right now, so this is pertaining to critical minerals. And the bottom line here is that the president sees a lot of vulnerability, impairment to national security with respect to imports of processed critical minerals and their derivative products. So this does apply to more than silver. It's a whole class of minerals, but let's just focus on silver here and what this may mean for the silver market. So the president may need to take other actions that he deems necessary to adjust imports of these critical minerals and eliminate the related threats to national security. That's if the agreements directed to be negotiated are not entered into within 180 days of the proclamation, they're not being carried out or ineffective. They're trying to negotiate new deals with the countries that we rely on for the imports of these minerals. Well, what other actions might the president take in the event that, a deal can't be reached? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is tariffs. So if tariffs are imposed on the import of silver, that does a number of things. I mean, the idea being that you want to tariff the imports, right? And that's going to discourage us from depending on imports. It's going to incentivize domestic production. But how do you do that? Well, look at this. This is a little graphic that I created to kind of help explain what's going on here. So a new higher equilibrium for domestic silver prices is what would be the outcome. Both potential outcomes of the Section 232 action, negotiated price floors or unilaterally imposed tariffs, and that's another thing they talk about a lot, price floors in this proclamation. So what is a price floor? Well, a price ceiling is how high a price can go. A price floor is how low a price can go, right? And both of these function to restrict cheaper imports and elevate the cost of foreign silver in the U.S. market. This forces domestic consumers to pay a higher price, creating a new protected price level for U.S. source silver that is insulated from lower global prices. So right now, the dynamic is actually that the price in Shanghai is higher than the price in the U.S. So what is that going to incentivize? Well, that's going to incentivize silver to flow out of the U.S., right? It's going to incentivize foreign producers of silver. What this proclamation and these actions might do is the reverse, right? If we see now that importing silver from abroad is taxed, then you're going to see prices of silver that's already in the U.S., aka the silver that is in your stack, if you live in the U.S., it's going to be going higher, right? And so this is the price with a tariff or a price floor. It's higher than the global price. I hope that makes sense. I hope that that is a helpful piece of information, because this is going to be something to follow over the course of the next 180 days. So this action follows the Secretary of Commerce's completion of Section 232 investigation, which found present quantities and circumstances of the imports of processed critical minerals and their derivative products threatened to impair national security, weakened domestic production, and a lack of access to secure and reliable supply chains for critical minerals affect the production of advanced weapon systems, energy infrastructure, everyday consumer goods, while making America vulnerable to exploitation by foreign actors. You need a lot of silver to make guided missiles. You need a lot of silver to make smart bombs. You need a lot of silver to make drones. And the reality is that we're gearing up the economy to head into a major conflict. And so domestic producers, so, mining companies that produce domestically, and this isn't an ad or anything, I'm just saying this is going to be beneficial for domestic miners of silver in the U.S. So, it might be something to take a look at, not financial advice, but, think about who has strong domestic supply chains of silver, a critical mineral. And it says it's vital that the United States have sufficient domestic mining and processing of critical minerals to reduce import reliance on foreign countries. Now, think about what China just did too, which is part of why the price of silver is soaring. They restricted silver exports. So it's no surprise that, January 1st, China implements export controls on silver. And then 2 weeks later, we're seeing the price of silver hitting $105 on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, still over $100. It's surging in the U.S. too, by the way. And then at the same time, the president signs this proclamation. You put two and two together here. This is very important. This is going to have a big impact on the economy. It tells you the direction that we are headed in. And as a stacker, me personally, this makes me want to have more physical critical minerals in my own possession. So that's that. That's what this story means. I think that this is going to ultimately be very bullish for the silver price. I think that this pullback that we're seeing today, both from a technical standpoint, it's healthy digestion, it's fine. There's nothing to be worried about here, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe it'll drop a little further, but ultimately I think the trend is much higher. I look forward to pullbacks as buying opportunities myself. And then I wanted to go over something that I covered in yesterday's live stream, which you haven't listened to. You can go check that out, because a lot of the stuff we covered in that is still very relative. Or relevant rather. This is an infographic that I created here to kind of cover some of the factors that are driving the silver price right here, right? So direct pressures on the physical market. This is a recap of what we covered, but there's an important one I'm going to go over in just a moment. It relates to this CME group, smaller 100-ounce paper contracts. But let's take a look at this infographic just to kind of set the stage for what's going on with the silver market right now. So Shanghai silver price nears $100 an ounce. Now it's over $100 an ounce as of today, one day later. The U.S. Mint, we talked about this. They are halting Silver Eagle sales. They are pulling their numismatic inventory because of the sharp increase in silver. So that's always a sign of tightness in the physical market. Now, the CME Group launches smaller 100-ounce paper contracts. I view this as an attempt to divert retail investment away from physical silver. And the update I wanted to provide for you is I was looking over this announcement from the CME Group. And look at this. This is regarding this 100-ounce silver futures contract that they want to introduce. They announced this yesterday. But look at what it says. The 100-ounce silver futures will be financially settled based on the daily settlement price of the global benchmark silver futures contract. So this is a purely paper instrument. It doesn't sound like there's going to be any way to stand for delivery of real physical silver. So I think this is something to be avoided at all cost. If you really want a paper derivative to hold, maybe look at something like the Sprott PSLV, no association with them, not financial advice. I'm just saying I would trust that personally more than a 100-ounce purely paper contract. And this is like a psyop to attract attention away from physical silver. That's just my interpretation, but let me know what you think in the comments. And then these are some of the other factors here. We've got Japan's soaring bond yield risk. Yeah, their bonds hitting record all-time highs. Let's see what they did today. We got a little decline in the Japanese 30-year bond yield today. Slight correction, but still near record all-time highs. Yesterday, they were at a record all-time high, the 10-year and the 30-year yield. Very dangerous, right? If the Japanese, rather, decide to sell their $1.2 trillion in U.S. Treasuries, you've got the Fed, they're already printing money again as of December, announced by Jerome Powell. So you've got a perfect storm here for supply chain disruptions, physical shortages, these attempts by the CME to circumvent demand for physical metal, and you got dollar devaluation. Could propel silver to triple digits. Well, you're already getting that price in China, so I think it's only a matter of time before we see the same thing happening here in the U.S. And that's why I think this pullback right here, okay, right now it's right back at the 0.236 retracement level. This is going to be short-lived, I suspect. Could it sell off more? Yeah, sure. Great. Hope it does. I'm not short silver. I hope you're not short silver. I feel bad for those who are a little bit. Can't feel too bad for anybody shorting silver who loses their shirt as the price soars, but that's how it is. Leave me a comment down below to let me know what you think about the topics that we covered in this video. Do me a favor, if you want to see more infographics like this, more coverage like this, go follow me at x.com/stacksmarter. I post a lot of technical updates, news updates regarding silver, more content like this. If you like this, make sure you go follow me over there, subscribe, share this with your friends. Thanks for watching, everybody. It's going to be fun to watch the silver price cross $100 with all of you. I think it's going to happen very soon. We're going to maybe watch it in real time. Maybe it'll happen on a live stream. I don't know. But thanks for watching, everybody. Stay safe and